Hi, welcome to Cracked Open. I'm Trinity. I'm a new mom navigating life with bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety, and a lot of other things too. Oh, and an adorable new baby. This podcast is going to be my unfiltered journey through navigating all of that. The mess, the chaos, and all the beautiful moments in between. So, if you're like me and you're just looking for some support or just to feel like you're not alone, and you're exhausted with all of it, then have a seat, rest up, and let's talk about it. Hi, welcome. So, let's talk about this podcast. This is my first podcast ever. I attempted years ago to have a YouTube channel, and it didn't go very well. I was young, I was impatient, and I had bipolar, as well as ADHD, OCD, and severe anxiety. So it didn't work out too well. But over time, on the right cocktail of medicines, I got my life together a little bit. And then I had a baby. This is Mateo. Yes, he's super cute. He's amazing. I love him. I love him every day. I thank God every day that I wake up and I have this little baby. I wouldn't change a thing. But he's exhausting. Every day I'm tired. Every day I'm hungry. And every day, so is he. So, before you have a baby, I would think twice, especially if you have something like bipolar disorder. Now let's talk about what bipolar disorder actually is. The definition of bipolar is a serious mental illness that causes unusual shifts in mood ranging from extreme highs, mania, or extreme lows, depression, in the forms of episodes. A person who has bipolar disorder experiences changes in their energy, thinking, behavior, and sleep. Now, bottom line is, we're crazy. We're a little crazy. We're off. Just a little touched, as my mom would say. So, when you have bipolar disorder, like myself, you need sleep. Sleep is very, very, very important. And when you have a baby, like myself, you don't get any of that. There's no such thing as sleep for mamas. Because when baby's sleeping, and everyone tells you, when baby's sleeping, you should be sleeping, that's a bunch of bull. Because when baby's sleeping, I'm not sleeping. I'm cleaning, I'm prepping, I'm showering if I have a chance. I'm making sure he has his things ready. I'm doing laundry, dishes. I might even be eating. Might be. But chances are, if you have a baby like mine, who somehow has a sixth sense for whenever you sit down to eat, you have time to clean, prep, maybe shower, and have a seat to sit down and eat, but never actually get a chance to put the food in your mouth. Ever. So, bottom line is, bipolar and baby, it's hard. Life is really hard. Life is exhausting, it's tired, it's never restful. So, in this podcast, we're going to get into all the nitty-gritty details of what it's like to have bipolar and a baby and try to navigate that, especially if it's your first time doing it. So, if that's you, I would say stick around, because me and Mateo, we have a lot to talk about. So now that we know what bipolar actually is, let's talk about the people that have it. 2.8% of all adults in the U.S. are diagnosed with bipolar. Of those cases, 83% are classified severe. Now, let's talk about just mental health in general. 1 in 5 women have a mental health disorder that is either pre-existing or develops during pregnancy. That's a lot of people. That's 20% of all women in the U.S. that either have a pre-existing condition or develop one during pregnancy. That's a lot of people, and that's a hard life to live, especially when you have a pre-existing condition, something like bipolar, that can't be medicated while you're pregnant. So let's talk about medications during pregnancy. The truth is, there aren't many that you can take, especially if you have bipolar. Before pregnancy, I was taking duloxetine, lithium, and Voquelin for my anxiety, bipolar, and my ADHD, which was really bad at the time. Let's just be honest here. I had been taking Voquelin since I was 5 years old. It really, really helped when I needed it, and it really, really didn't when I didn't. If I was in school or I had something to focus on or a big test or something like that, it was amazing, super helpful. If there was a lot going on, it kept me calm, kept me centered. But occasionally it did that a little too much, which when you have bipolar can put you a little bit in depression. So the lithium helped manage my bipolar for me. I was only diagnosed when I was 15 with bipolar. So most of my life I suffered, and I had a really, really hard time managing both of them. I had a really hard time managing my emotions. I got in a lot of trouble, and it just wasn't fun. I didn't have a fun time. But now that I'm older and I understand my conditions more, it's a little bit easier. The only part about it that's not easy is pregnancy. During pregnancy, you can't take lithium. Lithium is what they say, unkind to the fetus. Therefore, lithium will pull moisture from your body, pull moisture from your womb, and take it away from the fetus, making it an unlivable space. So you can't take it while you're pregnant. So for 10 months, I was without my knight in shining pill bottle. I needed the lithium to stay calm and to stay centered and to stay stable, really. For the first time in my life, I had been stable since I started taking lithium when I was 16. And it was amazing. It was great. And then I was 21 and pregnant, and all of a sudden I wasn't stable anymore. And it was terrifying. On top of the fact that I had ADHD, couldn't take my medication because my ADHD medication also helped with appetite control. So if I would have taken it, I wouldn't have been able to eat what I needed to eat to support my baby. So that's a lot of things going off at the same time. It's a whole lot of chaos in my body. Hormones are raging, my brain is going crazy, my baby is hungry, I'm hungry, and I don't know how to sit down. Duloxetine, however, was a lifesaver during pregnancy. I had severe anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and I have really, really severe bad eczema. So when I couldn't sleep at night, duloxetine really helped me stay calm, and it curbed the anxiety a little bit. Now, what didn't help was that I had insomnia. The worst insomnia I'd ever had in my entire life. My whole life I'd suffered with insomnia. When I was a kid, my mom would give me melatonin. As I got older, I would take another medication to help me sleep. I'll have to find it. I'll put it in the description box below if I can. And it helped a lot. Like, it knocked me out. And at some point, I was taking Seroquel. If you know Cat Williams, you know Cat Williams talked about when he got sent to the mental hospital and they put him on Seroquel. And that is hilarious, because the way he describes it is the way that it is. Whisper Seroquel in my ear, and I'm a zombie. Literally. Seroquel knocked me out, and it was probably the best sleep I had ever gotten. But you can't take it when you're pregnant. You just can't. It's not friendly to a fetus. You can't do it. So what did I do for sleep? I just didn't sleep when I was pregnant. Just didn't sleep. Moving on. So what did I do instead of sleep? Well, let me tell you what I did. I binge watched all 28 seasons of Law and Order SVU. Twice. And I ate all the snacks that I could. Every night. Twice. And you know what? I didn't mind it. Because at some point I would fall asleep for like a minute, but then the discomfort would set in. And on top of having bipolar disorder, and on top of having ADHD, and on top of having severe anxiety and eczema, which causes severe discomfort and actually has many times in my life thrown me into a depression, on top of having all of that, I have a sensory processing disorder, meaning I don't like the way certain things feel. It's not autism, it's not autism spectrum disorder, it's a sensory processing disorder. I don't like the way certain materials feel, certain fabrics, I don't like being touched all the time, I don't like having certain things touch my body. I don't even like certain temperatures. I just don't. I can't do it. My skin, however, does not have a sensory processing disorder. I do. My skin has an autoimmune disorder, eczema and psoriasis. severe eczema and psoriasis at that. So throw all that together in a blender, and you have chaos. Chaos every night. Because when you don't like to be touched all the time, but you have a tiny human kicking and moving and doing all these different things inside of you, it can throw you for a whirl. It is like riding a roller coaster that you're never allowed to get off of, at least not for 10 months. And on top of that, the where my placenta was located, I felt him kicking early. And I mean 13 weeks early. Yeah. 13 weeks. Just kicking and kicking and kicking. But anyway, so if you just take that into consideration, 40 weeks minus 13 weeks equals 27 weeks of kicking, non-stop movement, all the time. And you know what? They say that whatever sleep schedule your child develops and adopts while they're in the womb is the sleep schedule they're going to have outside the womb. And you know what? I thought they were lying. They weren't. They weren't lying. They were telling the truth. Absolutely, 100% honest. Freaking truth tellers. But anyway, so when I couldn't sleep between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. and woke up every single morning at 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. on the dot, not being able to go back to sleep, and every night from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. starving, even if I'd just eaten. And on top of that, I had hypermesis, which is the condition, which is simply put, it's chronic vomiting. All the time. Every day. No matter what. Pressure on your stomach. Just bleh, 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 all over the place. Yeah. This thing right here. Yeah. So, not only was I always hungry, not only was I a little out of whack, not only was I feeling unstable and anxious and itchy and uncomfortable because of my sensory processing disorder, I also couldn't eat. I was in the hospital, in and out, over and over again, for hypermesis and dehydration and almost, and for once, for malnutrition because I couldn't eat for over a week. So when you have all of that to deal with on top of a mental health disorder like bipolar, becoming a mom is very hard. But then you go in for labor. And you go in and you're so nervous and you're scared and you're terrified of what's about to happen and what's to come. And to meet this little person who's been kicking you on the inside and you are making jokes about evicting them because it's time and because they're too big and there's no way I'm pushing that thing out. All of these things boil down to one single moment. The moment they arrive. Now, we're going to talk about that moment in just a second. But first, I'm going to put him in bed because he's heavy and sweaty, just like me. And it's nap time. Be right back. My belly bandit is in bed, so let's talk about the day he got here. We've talked about sensory processing disorders, bipolar disorder, anxiety, ADHD, all these different things, mental health disorders in general. And we've talked about how they make it hard to become a mother and how they make it hard to be pregnant even. But becoming a mother is probably the most amazing thing that has ever happened to me. And let me tell you why. It all boils down to the one moment, the moment before it happens. The moment when you all of a sudden go from I'm ready, I've got this, I'm prepared, the room is ready, I have everything that I need to there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to do this. There is no way I can do this. Because not only are they telling you you're dilated, you have contractions, you having all this pain and all these things going on. In my case, at the very last minute, whether you had a crotch goblin or your belly banded, in my case, turns completely around. And you have to have an emergency C-section, which for someone with anxiety and depression and all these different things is probably the most terrifying words you can hear. Last minute, 5 centimeters dilated under the wire. Hearing, you are going to have a C-section. When you've been preparing yourself for 10 months to push this little human out. They're going to cut him out of you. We're going to open you up. We're going to take him out. We're going to hold him. It's terrifying. Now, both of my siblings were C-section babies, and they turned out great. They're adorable, they're cute, they're healthy, you know? Adorable, cute, most of the time, yeah. But I love them. I love them to pieces, and they're healthy. That's the part that matters. They are healthy. And they're almost grown now, so what's the worst that could happen? Well, the worst that could happen is I'm having an anxiety attack on the table. Why? Because you weren't expecting a C-section. The worst thing you can do to someone with anxiety is give them something absolutely unexpected. The unexpected being you're going to have a C-section when you planned to give birth naturally. That is terrifying. Now let me tell you what happened in this moment. In this moment, I had prepared myself to have a natural birth. I had prepared myself to begin taking my medication shortly after giving birth, and I prepared myself to go home with him the next day. What happened instead? I had a C-section. I had hemorrhaging. I bled a lot, essentially. That's what that means. And that was scary. That was terrifying. I have a bleeding disorder I didn't know I had. So, yeah. It's a terrifying experience, especially when you're having panic attacks on the table because you weren't allowed to take your medicine a week in advance. I hadn't taken my anxiety medicine 10 days before having the C-section. 10 days before giving birth to my son. And I hadn't taken my bipolar medication, my lithium, my Focalin, or my normal amount of duloxetine for 10 months before this moment. So all of that leading up to this moment, just under the wire, giving birth to my son, was terrifying. And I imagine for a lot of new moms, it's terrifying too. So me being a new mom, never having done this in the first place, never having done this before, it was absolutely scary. Until I saw him. Actually, I lied. Until I heard him cry. That first cry, I smiled. I stopped crying for a moment because I was crying. I was freaking out, throwing up on everybody, screaming, doing all the things because, why not? When you're having a panic attack, just go all out. If you're going to freak out and you're going to break down and you're going to crash out, as my sister says, do it. Do it to the max. Crash out. Just do it. So doing that and hearing him cry for the first time, that was the moment I told myself I could do this. I can do this. That is a human that I spent 10 months growing. I spent 10 months growing that human. And the first thing the doctors say is, he looks like you. So when I met him, and he heard my voice, and willed his eyes open in the recovery room, I knew that little boy's going to be worth it. So, the point of all of this, and the next few episodes in this series, is going to be, you're not alone. It is hard. It's very hard when you don't have sleep and you don't have help a lot of the times. But you can do it. I can do it. You can do it. We got this. So, from me and Mateo, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye.